What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It's the Earthmaster here on this Friday night. It is Friday night. I hear quite a bit of crazy people out here tonight in California. It is about 9:27 p.m. West Coast time here, November 18th, 2022. Taking a look at the latest earthquake activity out here across the globe. Show some readjustment up here along the Peru-Chile Trench. On the northern end, but also looking at some activity down here along the Chile area as well. Let's go ahead and check it out here on the flat scale model Earth. Latest quake here in South America, 4.3 in Chile, 74 kilometers deep. Got to remember here, this activity showing up on the globe. Looks like, actually I'm seeing a couple fours in there as well. So not for sure what's going on with the USGS reporting, but I see three of them. And another 3.5 in there. So activity kind of kicking up here in the area of the South America region, up and down the trench. But only, I don't even know who to believe, the EMSC or the USGS, because we now we got a 4.7. So it's all over the place. Hopefully the USGS catches up here. I know it's Friday night, but come on, let's get with the ball. Let's get with the show, right? Okay, activity across the eastern portion of the country here. We really haven't seen too much activity throughout the afternoon time frame. A little bit of adjustment down here and some further activity into Texas, western Texas out here, where that 5.4 struck a couple days ago. Looking at a broader scale of activity, though, across the region, including some activity up into the New Mexico area, 2.0 coming in there. But most of the activity has been confined here across the Pecos, Texas area, or at least just northwest of there. There is some fault systems that run up here across this area of the Delaware Mountains. Now we got two earthquakes here, 2.7 and a 2.9, and a lot of folks wondering, well, are those associated with pumping operations? You know, fracking operations and the whole oil field operation stuff going on, but I don't really see anything specific within this area. A couple miles here to the northeast, there is some, obviously, some wastewater ponds and injection wastewater processes going on there. But far as this, I'm not for sure what this is. I can't remember if I asked about that or not, but this is kind of looks a little weird. I'm not for sure what this is. But either way, this earthquake activity sits nearby, and I'm not 100% certain, but it looks like there may have been some older pumping operations out here in this area of these mountains, just shy of the mountains here. So can't really be certain if those are fault related or induced. All right, see what else we got here across the rest of the country. These earthquakes here from earlier this morning. Had one earthquake there in the Georgia area last night, and also Illinois, seen at 2.0. early this morning. So nothing new popping up across that area. Into Southern California, getting a little bit of activity ramping up, including a 2.6 near the Big Bear Lake area, 9.5 kilometers deep, just on the Pacific or the North American side of the plate boundary here. This is the San Andreas Fault that runs through here. Getting a little bit of activity further south as well, 1.9. And some movement just off the Elsinore fault system within the last hour. A little bit of swarming activity out here across this lake, 1.1, and a couple other smaller quakes here in the area. Somewhat down there, about 11, 12 kilometers below the surface. Nothing major going on across the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault or the Brawley seismic zone, for that matter. Just seen a 1.3 earlier this afternoon on that area of the fault, of that plate boundary. Ridgecrest, not a whole lot going on, just a couple small earthquakes there in that region. One thing I've kind of noticed here today is a little bit of the migration of quakes off of the Calaveras fault zone onto the plate boundary here, along the, it's pretty much a creeping, well, it's close, yeah, creeping section of the San Andreas Fault. Seen a couple ones kick up here earlier today, nothing big, but a little bit of a noticeable increase in activity along the creeping section of that fault, the plate boundary. Keep calling it a fault, plate boundary, whatever you want to call it. It's a major plate boundary, actually. All right, Clear Lake volcanic field, Cobb Mountain Calpine hydrothermal operations here, including a 2.2 within the last hour. Quite a bit of earthquake activity. It looks like about 25 earthquakes here over the last 24 hours. And just to do a tally check here of the last 30 days, let's go ahead and check this out. 1,027 earthquakes induced out here around the Cobb Mountain area. If you haven't heard about it, check out Calpine hydrothermal operations here. There's a lot of these hydrothermal plants out here that, well, I think that may be the administrative offices out there. But there's a couple, there's probably at least 10 or 12 more of these areas that inject raw sewage below to create energy. And they're all around the Calpine or the Cobb Mountain area. This place is a highly secured area. I could not, there's gates all over the place. I got up there to one of the gates and chatted with one of the security officers a few months back earlier this year, but he was telling me about the earthquakes that they feel up there and whatnot. But it's a very interesting process. Check it out if you have a time. As far as the info from the internet, up here around the Bernie area, 2.0 and a 1.5. Striking up here northwest of Bernie, looks like around the Goose Mountain area. A couple different lakes up here. It's been a while since I've been up around this region, but I don't see too much earthquake activity out there. There's a couple different fault systems that run through here, 2.0 and a 1.5, just off of the, what is this section here? Rocky Ledge Fault, it looks like. The Cascadia subduction zone looks pretty quiet for now. We did have that 4.5 off the coast, Abandon, beautiful little town, Abandon, Oregon. Early this morning, so far no further activity. A quick look at the tremor map tonight shows about 28 epicenters there into Northern California and into the Southern Oregon area. Not a whole lot going on throughout the Pacific Northwest. That's about it for the Washington and Oregon area. Up into the Alaska region, still showing some heightened earthquake activity across the region, including areas around Anchorage all the way up through Denali, and watching this pretty good swarm outside of the Aurora Lodge, which sits just south of the Fairbanks area by about 40 miles or so. Out here in this, I'm not for sure what it is. Let's check out the satellite view here. It looks like just a little plain area with, I'm sure there's not any oil operations out here. I'd kind of be surprised. Not for sure what this setup is, but little interesting little landmark out there. But either way, this area has shown a little bit of heightened activity over the last 24 hours. I want to pull up, well, most of it is within the last 24 hours. So far, largest earthquake looks to be the three-pointer that kicked up earlier this afternoon time frame. So just a little bit of odd quakeage going on up here, and the variables of these depths are looking a little bit more interesting than the magnitudes there. Anywhere from 0 kilometers down to looks like about 9 to 10 kilometers below the surface, and they're all over the place. So not for sure what's going on there with that earthquake activity. It's kind of off the fault systems here, just in this little, I guess it's kind of like a little valley up there. It's been a couple years since I drove this highway all the way up to Fairbanks, and actually ended up sleeping in the car one night because all the motels were full. Yeah, that was kind of interesting deal. It was pretty cold up there, but I survived. Beautiful country up there. I can't wait to get back to Alaska. Man, it's beautiful up there. Let's see. So, watching that swarm, also some activity further north here with a 1.9 and also a 2.7 looks like near the Purcell Mountains. A couple little earthquakes up there today. But definitely, folks, a noticeable uptick uptick in earthquake activity across this region today. So just a heads up, be on guard there. A couple earthquakes here, 1.0 and a 1.6 within the last hour. Very shallow earthquake activity along the plate boundary. I think this area might be getting ready to see some movement along the subduction zone. Watch that area pretty closely. Some activity out here across this volcano. This area has been showing a little bit of movement over the last 7 days. Got about 97 earthquakes. No major changes, though, noted across the Alaskan Volcano Observatory for now. Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, seen some activity early this morning, just after midnight, a little 5.0. Still waiting and watching this area pretty closely here. The Mariana Trench region not showing too much activity either. EMSC model here shows about the same. Looks like there was a 4.1 super deep here outside of Japan. And that's going to be this earthquake right here, 264 kilometers deep. So this area does see quite a bit of deep movement, but also at the same time should be seeing some subsequent shallower earthquake activity, but we're not. So it's gearing up for a big one pretty soon across the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. Outside of Manila in the Philippines, the latest earthquake within this area kicking off just a couple hours ago, 5.1 at 21 kilometers deep. That's about it here on the western edge of the Filipino plate. On the EMSC globe here, showing some movement across the Indonesia area. Some newer activity, it looks like, as well in the 3 range, but not a whole lot above that level. Looks like a 4.3, about 2 o'clock in the morning in the Banda Sea area. Aftershock activity following that 6.9 in the Java Trench. Well, 5.4, but that's about it. No further activity noted there on the map. Double check, make sure, see what we got going on up here in China and Afghanistan. Afghanistan showing the latest quake here across the region with a 4.0 coming in earlier this afternoon. And some earlier activity across the China area, and also a little quake outside of Greece here, 4.3 towards the Mediterranean Sea region. Off the coast of Morocco as well, 4.3, about 10 kilometers deep. So looks like a little bit of movement trying to make its way across this area. But that, again, some of that's from earlier this morning time frame. Down off the coast of South Africa, 5.5 coming in around the Antarctica plate here, the plate boundary, 10 kilometers deep. It's been a little while since we've seen some movement there across the area. The Atlantic Ocean looks pretty calm. Looks like the USGS picked up on that 4.7, downgrade to a 4.6 that just came in here a couple minutes ago. In the Santiago, Chile area, things starting to light up here a little bit. And these are basically within minutes of each other. Let me bring up the 7 days, 4.5 and above. Now remember, we had the 6.2 a little bit further south here, south of the Santiago area, along the Peru-Chile Trench a couple days ago. And now we got this activity further up north. Definitely a good sign of some further pressure that has been building up here in this area for a little while. If you remember, South America has been a quiet zone for quite some time. So might be looking at some further activity there around the Santiago, Chile area. Kermadec Trench, that's another area that's been awfully quiet. We did see a 4.1 looks like about 8 o'clock my time frame today, at about 406 kilometers deep. Yesterday we seen a 5.3 a little bit further up north of here, and shallower with that 5.3 at 31 kilometers deep. So watching this area pretty closely. It's been kind of working its way down here slowly, and that's a for sure sign of built up pressure in the region. So we'll watch that area of the Kermadec Trench closely. On the EMSC globe, there is the movement, it looks like, across the area. Some of that movement there, older activity in the red rings. All right, let's see what else we got across the area. Papua New Guinea, pretty quiet across this region here. The Big Island, what do we got going on out there in the beautiful Big Pacific? One earthquake here outside of Mauna Kea, 2.8, coming in earlier this afternoon, late afternoon, I should say, 14 kilometers deep. Most of the activity has been confined to the Pahala area around the southeast flank here of Mauna Loa. So nothing major going on across this area of Mauna Loa currently, but we are going to check that right now from the volcano hazards map here. And just for verification, not like I don't trust the USGS, but I know they get busy, and I just want to make sure that all reports are being reported. Across Mauna Loa, looking at the latest seismograph station here, shows us, hold on, stand by for a second here. By the way, all this is publicly accessible. This is all government, taxpayer paid for equipment. And look at that drum beat. A little bit of crazy movement kicking off right there. This is the Mauna Loa station coming in here, seismograph station. And I would say, looking at this activity here, it's a lot more as far as seismic activity than what they are showing here across the Mauna Loa region. Technically, they're only showing 2 earthquakes here, 1.9 and a 1.8. But this seismograph here shows and tells me that it's a lot more than what they're reporting. So I am watching this. You know, we can't really depend specifically on one government organization there. It's always good to verify the data. And it looks like there's quite a bit more activity than what's being reported across the region. Nothing major yet. I'm not seeing any major unrest or unusual activity. It's just part of an ongoing swarm that's been going on since about end of September. All right, let's see what else we got. Yellowstone National Park, looking pretty calm. Not a whole lot going on. Just a couple of small earthquakes over the last 24 hours. Very small microquakes, and this is very small, even compared to that map I just showed you guys about Mauna Loa. Let's see, solar weather activity. Looks like things are starting to ramp up a little bit here. Could be seeing the KP index around the 4 to 5 range tonight and tomorrow night. Up around the 5 range, so maybe a G1 class storm. We'll see if that kicks in or not. Current conditions show us within the 3 range of the KP index, so a little bit of elevated conditions coming in here. With the auroras showing the possibility up there around Canada. That's about it here. Greenland, Iceland, very minimal. But we'll watch that for some amplification throughout the next probably 48 hours or so. And this is all coming from, or due because of a coronal hole here, 46. That's going to be this dark sunspot here, or dark spot on the sun, spewing out quite a bit of high wind from the area, solar wind. And there's the current image here. Looks like we have maybe another small little coronal hole developing up here. But this is the one that will be providing us with some potential storming conditions here over the next couple nights. So watch for that. Again, I kind of think we're just going to get a glancing blow, but we'll keep an eye on it for sure. Solar X-ray flare detection chart here shows some elevated C flare activity over the last 24 hours. There's been no, stand by for a second here. What did I do with it? No major flares kicking off. In fact, the latest look here at the sunspot regions, got to keep our eye on that one. That one's did produce a, what was it? A C, kind of like a mid-C flare, a little bit earlier this morning time frame. But 3150 is departing. It decided to ramp up here pretty quickly out of the blue. Literally, it was nothing, and then all of a sudden it became a pretty complex sunspot here with different magnetic fields here very close together, and it possibly could produce an M flare, but it is kind of directed away from Earth, so probably won't be geo-effective. We're left with a couple different sunspots that I'm keeping an eye on. I'm watching this one down here for some development. Also this sunspot right here. This one, pretty big, but it doesn't really harbor any major instability in the magnetic structure of that sunspot here. So 3147, 3148, with the likelihood of 3150 being the main culprit of any potential moderate flares. But we'll keep our eyes on these sunspots pretty closely. See what these guys are reporting. 45% chance. They kind of downgraded, right? As soon as things pick it back up here with the development of the sunspots, they're going to have to upgrade again. So that's just one of those things here with the sunspots. They come and go and develop pretty rapidly, and then they can die off pretty rapidly as well, so degrade. 45% chance of a C flare, M flare at 10%, X flare 1%, and proton event about 1% as well. Let's see here, and that's about it. Current conditions here over the real-time solar wind stream. We've been seeing a little choppy density here, but we've also noticed a speed increase over the early evening time frame here. Probably could be contributed to the that coronal hole, but right now no major no major solar weather activity going on. Only a slight chance up there around Canada for some potential potential auroras. So we'll watch that, and of course, if anything major changes, we'll report back on that. All right, folks, I'm going to jump off here Friday night. Sounds like my neighbors are going crazy, and goodness, it's a weekend, I guess, right? Let's see, when is I was going to say curfew, but there's no curfew. Ah, goodness. 10 o'clock at night, I think noise. What time's quiet time? Should be 11 o'clock if I remember right. 11 o'clock, I hope my neighbors will at least calm down a little bit. A cabin up in the mountains in Alaska. Anybody got one up there for sale? A cabin in the mountains in Alaska. I'm looking. All right, guys. Have a good night. Stay safe out there. And again, a couple regions to watch pretty closely, of course. And I've been chatting about them the past couple nights. Mariana Trench, Kuril Kamchatka Trench I've been talking about for months. And New Zealand area with that kind of unzipping type of fashion going on there. Got to watch that pretty closely in that very stressed region. All right, folks. Have a good night. Stay safe. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend. We'll definitely chat you guys early tomorrow morning. You can count on it. We'll catch you guys a little bit later. Peace out.